Hey everyone, 20 Side Adventures, live from PaizoCon. Not really live and not really at PaizoCon, but I guess I am because it's virtual, online, so from the comfort of my own office, I can attend the panels and we're going to do some live plays throughout the weekend. So just wanted to jump in real quick, go over the notes I took from the first two live streams in case folks haven't been able to follow along. So first of all, a bunch of new content coming out in the Pathfinder world. High Helm, pretty cool. I know it's already been announced. They went into it a little more depth that they're going to be releasing all of the Sky Citadels, as well as a lot of information on dwarves, having just run a dwarf-centric campaign in my homebrew world. I think that's pretty cool. There's also a new archetype coming in there, the Stalwart Defender. And I just love how Pathfinder 2 does archetypes, so seeing another one in play is always exciting. Lots of stuff coming out for Starfinder. I don't really play it, but just some of you might be interested. Apparently, a lot of cyborg zombies involved. Adventure Path number 200 is coming out with the 7 Dooms of Sandpoint. So anyone from back in the day that remembers Sandpoint, that could be pretty epic. Yeah, and then we get right into some of the remastered changes. So let's see here. Spirit damage is a new type of damage. This is going to revolve around a lot of the alignment changes. I didn't mention this. You'll also see in the background here I have some of the concept art for some of the different dragons. I'll scroll through some of those screen caps I grabbed in session, but this is the Diabolic Dragon here behind me. Pretty fearsome looking critter. It's also on the cover of one of the new books, so you've probably seen a little bit of this guy. But spirit damage coming. The spirit damage can be augmented with holy or unholy if you are sanctified to a deity where those opposing forces matter, and so you can augment a spell's damage with good holy or unholy damage for the good or evil aligned. Lots of spells are getting reworked to apply spirit damage that just kind of fit the new alignment changes. Orcs, more mixed ancestries are all coming in the new book, so they're retweaking some of how the orc ancestry works and then bringing all of the orc related things together, because in the previous books you had a little bit of orc in this one, a little bit in that one. My roosters here. The Nephilim, so they talk about those and how you're just going to have a lot more thematic choices with that, as you can create the planar ancestry of your choosing rather than being really pigeonholed into the Esmar or Tiefling like you were before. Class changes Bard. They're making them more roleplay centric, which Bard's are already pretty roleplay heavy, so them refining that even further is kind of cool. They also mentioned further on, so I had to put it in a cliff note here, but the Martial, the Warrior Muse is getting some more tweaks. So you're going to have some more martial options on Bard. Gosh, I can't even speak. The Cleric. So on top of the Sanctify we already mentioned, the War Priest is getting a pretty hefty rework. You're going to get Master Proficiency for your deity's favorite weapon, martial weapon boost at lower levels, and they're cleaning up several of the feats. So the chat was clamoring for War Priest changes before they said it. People very happy with that. Druids, you're getting a little bit of a rework to some of the orders, getting tweaks for things that just were because they were are getting reevaluated. So some druids, if not all, are going to be able to wear metal. So that's a pretty big change. Fighter, they're getting rid of the open trait from most of their feats because most people didn't know what it was or didn't acknowledge it. For those that don't know, open means you had to use it as your first action. They felt that was just restrictive, so that's pretty much just going away. So that'll probably benefit a few other classes, but heavily on the fighter. We're also getting an athletics change with the reposition action, so that could be pretty exciting. They didn't really go into what it was, but clearly it's going to be repositioning things around the board on the battlefield. So that's always, I like classes that behave like that. Ranger. Warden spells are going to get an increase in progression, so they keep up. Feats are getting polished, and then they are releasing a martial crossbow, so you can have a martial crossbow focused ranger with the arbalist. Rogue, the big one they already let out before, is martial weapons training, and then each of the subtypes of rogue are going to have focuses on different types of weapons. Witch, getting some of the biggest reworks. So the patrons are going to remain mysterious, but they're going a little bit more into the flavor of the patrons. They're also really leaning into the familiar, making the witch the heaviest and best familiar linked class. And then some of the patron things that they just kind of mentioned for feats. So Patron's Puppet. Your patron can reach in and directly interact with things. Patron's Presence. You can summon your patron's presence to infect the world. And then they also mentioned a high level one where the patron will literally reach their arm through your familiar and like rip out the soul of those who have offended them. So some pretty cool patron focused stuff on the witch. Wizards. This might have been the biggest shock of the reveals is they are getting rid of the schools of magic. Um, I think for me as a GM, thematically, we'll still probably have types of magic, but I won't necessarily feel beholden to call them what they were from in the past. I'm a big fan of the spheres of power, so I might. Well, I always used spheres in conjunction in Pathfinder 1 and found it hard to kind of bridge the much more natural magics of spheres with the types in traditional Pathfinder or D&D, so getting rid of those and maybe being able to merge those from a thematic thing in my world. But I think their removal from Wizard is pretty cool, and it's getting replaced with schools of magic. So they referenced battle magic. So if you went to a school of wizardry that taught you how to be a warrior mage and participate in the battlefields, you will have spells that obviously involve a lot of damage, but also things that impact the battlefield and can control the ebb and flow of battle. A school of civic wizardry. So if you're using spells to help a large city's infrastructure work, you might have studied at the civics school of civic wizardry and get spells that are focused around that. Protean form was another one they mentioned, and then the the unified school of magic theory is kind of the catch-all school as wizards. So I think some pretty good changes there. One more thing, we'll never be able to magic missile the darkness any longer. It will have to be a force barrage, which is apparently the new name for magic missile. Second screen up here. So these are some different dragons that came up in the live stream. They were talking to them as mirage dragons. I don't think these were actually the mirage dragon, but some more concepts behind the screen there. Let's see, lots of spells getting reworked. Some of them, if there were redundancies, they're combining them. So like dancing lights and lights, they have created an overall light spell, so you don't have to choose between two ways to help give your party light. But they will have elements of both, so you're not really losing either spell. Cantrips are going to get feats that will boost them. Focus spells are getting a rework. Every 10 minutes you spend, you'll get a focus point back, and all the different feats to increase focus spell or focus point regeneration are being consolidated into one feat where you just simply restore your focus pool. So I think those are some pretty good changes. Conditions, so spells that impact conditions are getting reworked. Rather than being very niche and specific, they're going to be much broader and affect types of conditions. So if it's mental conditions, you'll have spells to help alleviate mental conditions. If it's sickened conditions and bodily conditions, you'll get some spells for that. So making it easier to remove conditions from the spells that are already out there. Overall changes, other things they mentioned. They're changing the chase mechanics so that the entire party can be a part of it. Talismans are getting changed, so rather than being a front-loaded before you roll, but maybe you get this benefit one-time use, they're just going to simply be a single trigger. I use this talisman, I make the athletics check because it's a talisman of the bull, and I'm going to push someone, and it's going to give me a +1 to the push, and it will increase the amount I push them, was the example given. So these one-time magic use items are just getting much more practical and higher use. Shields. So we'll be getting a reinforcing rune. So when you get that really cool magic shield, you can still block with it without fear of it breaking very easily. So you'll be able to add reinforcing runes. They didn't go into dragons near as much as I'd like, beyond giving us these quick glimpses here. So 3 more dragons, the Diabolic again, and a Lunar and Aquatic on the screen. So yeah, didn't really get into the dragons as much as I was hoping for because I'm really excited for those changes. But they kind of talked about their overall thoughts around the changes on mythological creatures. They're trying to get back to the original mythos and core of a lot of monsters rather than just what has happened to them over multiple editions in the OGL. They're also renaming whatever they need to rename and filling gaps and niches. So we should still have the same monsters and creatures and things to interact with, but with a very Pathfinder specific flair. So there you go. That's my quick recap of the first two panels at PaizoCon. I might drop a couple other videos if other cool things come up, and then I'm going to be taking part in some active play. So please, if you have any questions or things you'd like asked, there are some Ask Anything panels and things with different developers from Paizo. So if there's anything anyone wants to know more about, drop them in the comments, and I'll see what I can do. And we'll see you guys next time on 20 Side Adventures.